I'm here with my good friend Noel Alpins. Noel, I'm so happy that you're here. Really, a friend and a paragon of generosity, and we're going to start out with that. So, Noel, we're going to be talking about a bunch of things, but before we do it, so that viewers can write this down, we're going to be talking about a tool that you have released at no cost. Please tell us exactly how to access that tool, and then we're going to talk about what the tool is and what it does.
So thanks, Josh, for the invitation to come. I always like coming on your show. It's called the Assort Group Analysis Calculator. It's available for free to members of the ISRS at the isrs.org website. So it's a point now where you can actually download your own data. And what I'm showing in the Barrack lecture on Monday is 8,000 cases, but that's not even just testing at a low level. So big data, I think, is an important consideration these days to be able to determine overall trends. So big data in ophthalmology isn't at the zettabyte level, which we're talking like 10 to the 21, which is kind of crazy numbers. But here, at least we're expanding it. So there's no limit to the number of cases you can download. So in my own personal experience we put 8,000 cases looking at a particular aspect of astigmatism. We're able to determine the trends of is there an overcorrection or undercorrection, are we on axis or off axis, how's the overall accuracy as far as the difference factor goes, and it's really good to be able to use it for big numbers coming from groups of ophthalmologists or one doctor wanting to do his own data. So we haven't tested the limits. We've got up to 10,000, but it's open for other people to test the limits and see how far they can take it.
What does the tool do? How would someone in clinical practice use this?
So if you do a particular type of astigmatism surgery, whether it be laser, whether it be toric implants, or whether it be incisional surgery, you get your preoperative data, you get your postoperative results. You have to know what your treatment is, specifically the TIA, the target-induced astigmatism vector. And there's a very easy to download spreadsheet that you download, so there can't be any mistakes about which way the axis is, and you can't get axis reversal. So you get very valid data and outcomes. And so by taking all your own data, or a whole group of data, presenting it in a spreadsheet which you can download from the website, you just plug it in and the answers come out in about 5 seconds.
So when we're talking about pooling data from a number of people, if we're talking about an astigmatic calculator for a single patient, what we're talking about is information about the patient. But when we're talking about pooling data from a lot of patients, what we're talking about is the surgeon. Is this going to tell me what influences I have on astigmatic outcomes for my patients as opposed to you or Jonathan Kahn or someone else?
Yeah, so that's the beauty of the astigmatic method that I've developed, is you can compare an astigmatic operation in Melbourne, where I come from, using a laser vision correction of a Vizx or a Schwind laser, for example, that I use. And you can compare that to an astigmatic procedure performed in London with Dan Reinstein using his SMILE. And then you can do an analysis of a toric implant in New York. And so the whole beauty of the method that I developed is you can compare with one metric different ways of doing surgeries with different surgeons. It's not really a mixed bag of using different metric parameters.
Now, I can understand downloading this spreadsheet and filling in data. It's a sort of an abstract concept for me to imagine what the output of this tool looks like, but you had some forethought and you brought a very nice screenshot for us. Let's put up that screenshot, and Noel, I want you to tell me what I'm seeing here.
So on the top left hand is the surgically induced astigmatism, and the right hand side is the target induced astigmatism vector. It has their magnitude means, it has their summated vector mean, and then you move down to the bottom left-hand corner, you have the difference vector, and the question you just asked is how do you compare results? So the difference vector is the metric. In a golf analogy, I call it the second putt. So obviously if you have no second putt, you actually put the ball on the hole. So the smaller the difference vector, the better the result. So you also have a summated vector mean of the difference vector as well as a magnitude mean. And with those numbers, you can compare the difference vectors from different types of surgery. And when you go across to the bottom right-hand corner, you have the correction index, which is really the relationship between the surgically induced astigmatism vector and the target-induced astigmatism vector. And that ratio is best or perfect at 1. using a geometric mean, which it does. So the correction index is either 1 or below 1 or above 1. So if you get a correction index below 1, if you want to refine your nomogram, you do what you call the coefficient of adjustment, which is just the inverse, also using a geometric mean, and then you can adjust your nomogram. So when you look at that answer there, it says 0.94 over 8,000 cases of different types of procedures, but at least I'm seeing there that the laser, this is a laser vision correction group of patients, I could nudge up my treatment paradigm by another 6%, and therefore I will, when I put a treatment in for the next 8,000 cases, instead of putting in the exact amount of astigmatism treatment, I might put 1.06 in, and just to nudge it up to get a 1.0 correction index. So that's how you can use data from a big number to be able to accurately refine your nomograms for future treatment.
And Noel, what I'm seeing here is the pooled data from 8,000 patients.
Correct.
Really, really neat. So in essence, I can sort of use the difference vector as the outcome measure for me as a surgeon, not just in terms of technique, but in terms of the technology that I'm using and all of my surgical planning. What I'm aiming to do is to minimize that difference vector, and this is going to help me visualize it and ultimately give me guidance. I can follow this over time as I make changes to my practice to see what effect it's having on that difference vector.
Yeah, and there's one other extension of the difference vector is that if you have a certain difference vector and your treatment was 2 diopters, and you get the same difference vector for a treatment of 4 diopters, obviously the difference vector from the 4 diopters is a better result because you've got the same leftover but a much longer treatment. So we call that the index of success. It's a relative scorecard according to how big the treatment was and how small the difference vector is. So it's just a refinement of being able to take down those numbers even more carefully. So this is something, if people want to know a little bit more about it, in my book called Practical Astigmatism Planning and Analysis, it really goes through a lot of the aspects of the analysis technique we've just been talking about, and goes in a lot more detail about other aspects of vector analysis, vector planning, core T, and even coupling. Anyhow, 24 chapters, all the information you might need on astigmatic treatment analysis.
Yeah, and one of the nice things is unlike AI, which I dearly love, this is not a black box. You can explain to us what's actually going on behind the scenes with this tool. And I want to end our interview the same way that we started it, which is again to tell us, how do I access this free tool?
So you go to the internet. I think everyone who's listening to this is on the internet. You go to a website called www.isrs, which is International Society of Refractive Surgery.org, and then you'll see the assort calculators. There's a number of them. There's other calculators there, not just for mass number of patients, also for individual patients, and I won't go into it today, but they're there to have a look at. So we've got 5 calculators there now. And then you put the data in from, you just download it from a spreadsheet, and the calculations are done. You have an export, and so that information is suitable for presentations and meetings. It's also been built so that you can just plug it straight into your paper that you're submitting to the journal, whether it be ophthalmology for the American Academy, JCRS, or Journal of Refractive Surgery.
Oh, really, really, really great stuff. You're to be. I know that I say this every time that we speak, but I sincerely mean it. You're to be lauded for all of this wonderful stuff, and especially on a personal level for the generosity of the time that you spend with me.
I always enjoy talking to you, and Josh, you always bring out the best in me anyhow, and all the things I can offer, and I appreciate the time to be able to do that.